All right, happy Thursday, everybody. It's literature time, our study of poetry. We're going to continue that today. Our next poem is by a poet by the name of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Notice the years he was alive, so 1803 to 1882, so Civil War around the 1860s, right? The American Revolution, however, was set before that, so 1776, right? That sort of time period. So this would have been after the establishment of the United States of America. But Ralph Waldo Emerson was a Boston, Massachusetts boy, eventually ends up settling in a place by the name of Concord, Massachusetts. And he becomes a very famous poet, writer. It says he's a transcendentalist. A transcendentalist was somebody, this was a movement in the 1820s, 1830s, in which people really thought that inside people were generally good. Now, there is corruption in the world, but if people follow their heart and do what they, follow their instincts, good things come out of that. So just the whole idea that there's good in all people is a transcendentalist. So he was a very famous poet, lecturer. So he would go and people would pay him to go give speeches. Eventually he dies in his hometown of Concord, Massachusetts in 1882. There you see him pictured there. The poem that we are going to take today is known as Concord Hymn. Now, if you remember, the American Revolution began in Lexington and Concord. So those are the two places where the American Revolution began. And there you see on top of page 282, on April 19, I'm just reading that tag note above the page. On April 19, 1775, at Concord's North Bridge, farmers fired on English troops for the second time that day. The first battle of the Revolution had been in Lexington only a few hours earlier and a few miles away. So keep in mind that we were the colonies, the 13 English colonies. And there are some things where, we weren't represented well in the British Parliament, and they decided to tax the people of America. And we didn't like that. And so Ben Franklin and George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and some of those founding fathers got together, and there was a revolution that began in order to win our independence from Great Britain. Now, this was a song, a poem that was sung at the completion of a battle monument that was put up in 1837. Okay, so this was written really for that event. They wanted to commemorate those who lost their lives in Concord, and they had a ceremony in which there was a votive stone that they put up, and there's a picture of that stone, okay, in Concord. It looks like it's pretty good from being from 1837, so maybe it's been touched up or refurbished or something. But this was sung at the completion of the battle monument. And please note the date, July 4th. So 4th of July, birthday of our nation, at the ceremony. And I'm just going to read. By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled, here once the embattled farmers stood and fired the shot heard round the world. And that's the first shot of the American Revolution. The shot heard round the world, as it's called, and we'll talk about why that is. The foe long since in silence slept, alike the conqueror silent sleeps, and time the ruined bridge has swept down the dark stream which seaward creeps. On this green bank by this soft stream we set today a votive stone, that memory may their deed redeem, when like our sires our sons are gone. Spirit that made those heroes dare to die and leave their children free, bid time and nature gently spare the shaft we raise to them and thee. Keep in mind that the people who started this revolution were really risking their lives to do so. It was very possible that if the Americans had not won the American Revolution, that the British may have tried them for treason. Ben Franklin, one of the colonists who participated in the American Revolution, once told his fellow men, "Men, we all must hang together or we shall hang separately," meaning that they would maybe be executed for treason, for going against the Great Britain. And that very well could have been how it played out, but it didn't. All right, so some words there. I'm just going to ask you some questions on the poem on page 282. All right, so the purpose of each stanza in this poem is somewhat different. The purpose of stanza 1 is simply to do what? Just basically to give everybody a reminder of what happened at the bridge on April 18th, 1775. Stanza 2, what does the speaker say happened? Time the ruined bridge has swept. It's almost as if he's saying too much time has passed and people have forgotten the sacrifices that our founding fathers made in the Revolution. And what does the speaker wish for in stanza 4? Almost that a little bit of that spirit that the founding fathers had be in us as well. So a votive means done or given because of a vow or solemn promise. Okay, so why would they need a votive stone? Well, just like something to keep the memory of those who served or those who sacrificed so that they're not forgotten. And that's why we have monuments that are set up. Shot heard round the world. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why is it called the shot heard round the world, that first battle, the first shots fired in the American Revolution? Because this revolution actually, in this period of world history, set off other revolutions taking place throughout the world. And so it was the shot heard round the world. They took note of what the Americans did, and other people who in other countries who thought that they were being ruled unfairly took note, and some of them even revolted as the Americans did. Okay, some more information on this this poem. So it's really the purpose of this poem is a tribute to those who died in battle, particularly at the bridge in Concord. And what did they do to commemorate this event? Well, they put up a stone, as you see it there. So make sure you know that for the quiz. So the hymn is talking about enemies killed in battle as well. And again, it is not a humorous poem, okay, but rather a dramatic poem in which it commemorates a great event that took place, an important event that took place. And keep in mind the purpose of this, or when it was really, what it was written for, is found on page 282 above the poem. It says it was sung at the completion of the battle monument July 4th, 1837. So that was really the purpose for this hymn, this poem being performed, being done, being written. All right. That is all I have for you for today. But just, this kind of reminds us that, we have other, those in our armed forces who we want to make sure that we remember and keep in our prayers as well always. We have a wonderful Veterans Day, service every single year. But those monuments and those markers are there to help us not forget the sacrifice that others make every day, but then also have made in our country's history, that have made made sure that our country has freedom, and the freedoms that you and I enjoy. It doesn't seem like we're very free right now as we are quarantined, but those freedoms will return, and many people have fought for those, including those in the American Revolution. All right, that is your lesson for today. Tomorrow, Friday, I will give you a quiz on this poem, and also Caged Bird is the other poem that we're going to take tomorrow, Maya Angelou. All right, till tomorrow, we'll see you.